I agree, there have been real failures. Those failures, of course, extend beyond the borders of Illinois. That's their national failures, a failure to have comprehensive immigration reform, a failure of the president to follow his own edict to go after the worst of the worst.
Illinois Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker pointing the finger at President Trump while addressing the murder of 18-year-old Loyola University student Sheridan Gorman. The suspected killer, an illegal immigrant with priors, but Pritzker's condolences may be too little too late for the freshman's family who have promised justice for Sheridan. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany here with my co-host, Emily Campagno. Also joining us, Molly Line, Fox News correspondent, Caroline Downey, National Review columnist, and Charles Payne, host of Making Money on Fox Business. Well, that was the first time that Governor Pritzker spoke on camera about Gorman's murder last Thursday. Prosecutors say she and her friends were walking along the waterfront, which Pritzker himself had bragged was safe just a few months ago, when a masked man who was hiding nearby opened fire. Chicago's Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson also breaking his silence this morning. Here's what he had to say.
Disturbing acts of violence like this set us back as a city. We will not tolerate those who break the law and put the lives of others in danger. And as they do on a regular basis, our Chicago Police Department led a swift and decisive investigation and identified the person that is suspected of being responsible for her death.
The suspect, 25-year-old Venezuelan illegal immigrant Jose Medina, was supposed to be in court yesterday, but his hearing was postponed because he's being treated for tuberculosis. He faces a number of charges, including first-degree murder. Gorman's mom promising, quote, "We are going to get justice for Sheridan. We have a voice and it is going to be heard. We are beyond shattered." It is a preventable tragedy, Caroline, and it's directly tied to liberal policies. Liberal policy number one, Medina entered the country illegally in May of 2023. President Biden was president. Liberal policy failure number two, June of 2023, he is arrested for shoplifting and yet released into the interior yet again. Number one, number two. And for those who say angel families are far and few, no, they are not. Let's just put up some of the pictures of these young women who are no longer with us. Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Nungary, all of their names, all of their pictures, you will see them here. And these are just 4 stories, all Biden administration policies.
Yeah, I think it's funny that J.B. Pritzker is accusing Republicans of politicizing this tragedy and this murder because he did that first. He oversees Chicago, which is a sanctuary city, which by definition defies and rejects federal law under this progressive pretense of humanitarianism. That's pretty dang political. And I also think it's worth reemphasizing just how little that Chicago was being asked to do. All they were being asked was to transfer an illegal alien who was previously charged with the crime into federal custody. And if they had done that, then Sheridan Gorman would still be alive today. Because after that shoplifting charge, that was enough proof that this guy should be handed over to the feds, but they didn't do that. And I think the other thing about J.B. Pritzker is clearly he has presidential ambitions here. And I think this is a test. If he is willing to stake so much on this issue, to put illegal aliens over innocent young girls' lives, that should be disqualifying for presidential ambitions.
Yeah, it should be. And the Trust Act that you referred to, passed by the liberal legislature there in Chicago, it bars federal and state cooperation. But what it's interesting to me, Emily, FoxNews.com asked J.B. Pritzker a number of questions. He responded finally to the murder of Sheridan. But here's what he didn't respond to. You see it here. Pritzker, however, did not respond to a second question on whether he would instruct Illinois authorities to abide by the Laken-Riley Act and hold illegal immigrants, including Medina, until the feds can pick them up. He would not respond to a policy change that would stop the next young woman from potentially being killed.
We cannot overstate how much he has abdicated his duty as governor. And we see that in the micro sense and the macro, right? So he is failing to provide safety for his citizens, the most vulnerable among us, the youth, the students that are under his watch when she came from New York there to Illinois. But then in refusing to answer those policy questions, do we all realize that he is catering to his dopamine hits from the clicks of his social media? He is catering to the headlines, the sound bites. He is catering to the very woke small sliver of the far left that blames everything on President Trump, which is underscored by the fact that when asked about this, as we showed earlier, he blamed the president's sentence too. How many more pieces of legislation do we need with these beautiful young lives' names on them? The reality is none. We just need the laws to be enforced. And for anyone that argues and scoffs at the crime of shoplifting, by the way, clearly it is not dispositive for homicide. But when you look at the illegal alien entry, and then you look at the priors that they have. For example, in the case of Bambi Larson in San Jose, when people scoffed at the detainer request for someone that had multiple nonviolent, I use that in quotes, charges and convictions, well, then one day it was assault. And then one day it was assault on a cop. And then one day it was murder. So you cannot tell me that we are supposed to look in the other direction when a crime is committed on our soil by an already illegal immigrant and say that there is nonviolent attachment when also those same voices that are so petulantly and patently wrong with everything claim that, well, stalking's not violent or things like that. Because the reality is that that poor young girl shared, she was stalked and murdered, and that's also evidenced by the charge he's facing, which is first degree. And then you have those older people that say, oh, she startled him, that they excuse it away for her family to have to come out and defend her actions that night, which was normal of a young college student, and then have to plead for the laws to be enforced while that fat governor blames everything on the president and eyes the Oval Office as his aspirations is sickening to me. When did public service become simply social media?
Yeah, you know, Charles, totally correct that he blamed President Trump. He said he politicized this, but remove President Trump for one moment from this. I want to go back to the family's initial statement. Before President Trump even spoke about this, they said, we are greatly disappointed by policies and failures that allowed this individual to remain in a position to commit this crime. When systems fail, the consequences are not abstract. They are real and, in our case, permanent. So he can blame Trump for politicizing this, but Trump is simply saying what the family said.
Right.
Policies failed our family.
All right. Anytime I hear politicians say comprehensive this or that, I know it's a cop-out. As soon as you hear that, along with the crocodile tears from the governor and the mayor of Chicago, it's just, again, you know, it's totally heartbreaking. And I'm not sure he's catering to the sliver, if he's the king of that sliver of the party, to be quite frank with you. And you broaden this out for a nation. Right now, we're talking about long lines at airports and disarray because the Democratic Party, they don't want to deport people, illegals. People have come here illegally. They simply don't want to deport them. We know a large faction of them are violent. They're saying they're okay with that. Essentially, de facto, that's what they're saying, and that's why we have this partial shutdown. That's what they're saying. That's the mountain, that's the hill they want to die on, is that we want illegals here who are violent, illegal people in this country to stay here, and then when these murders happen, over and over and over again, we'll get in front of a microphone and act like we care, when in fact we don't.
Yeah, that's 100% correct. Right. And the family, they've been so strong in their statements, and now they've said, you know, we want to grieve and celebrate this beautiful life this week. And you just think about them as they are about to lay their daughter to rest, that they even had to come out to Emily's exact point and say what Sheridan did and what she was doing that night was normal. It was safe. It's what students do every day.
Yeah, and now they're holding a celebration of life this Saturday for Sheridan Gorman to talk about her life and why it mattered and what a beautiful human being she was, really focused on her. But this family has been remarkable in offering this additional clarity in that very simple statement that put out that this comes down to policies. But they end that statement by saying accountability must be complete, that this needs to go all the way. Yep. I think there's a little bit of a crack possibly coming in the Democratic wall on this issue. Remember, there was the alderwoman who got so much pushback when she implied that the victims may have somehow startled someone with a gun, and got so much pushback on that particular comment. But there's a comptroller there, a Democratic comptroller there in the state, talking about how heartbroken she is for this family. Comptroller Susana Mendoza, a Democrat, saying, hold him, prosecute him, deport him to a prison in El Salvador. So we'll see if some Democrats begin to see what specific policies could address these specific loss of life and what that could eventually mean moving forward if there's a crack in that wall coming.
Yeah, and let's hope they start by enforcing the Laken Riley Act and taking away sanctuary policies that are deadly, that kill young women.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.